It means to be a clairvoyant. Um, Clairvoyant is someone can see with clarity the subtle energies. A clairvoyant, a difference with someone is just a voyant. It's related to the training. I see, a lot of people and they exclaim or talk about themselves like buoyant. And yeah, I don't deny that, all of the people we have the ability, and in certain way, I'm sure you are buoyant too. You can see things others not see all the time. You know, there is a lot of invisible things exist, affect us, and sometimes um, we don't really know how to approach to these things. So the important thing about understand the difference between voyance and clairvoyance is related with the training, the discernment, the source. Because I know, friends or just people I met in this path, in the healing, in the spiritual evolution, in the shamanism, and um, also the yoga is really helpful to develop this CD, this gift. And here the thing is, a lot of people born with this, for some one of you could be a difficulty, because since child there is people, see these things like shadows, ghosts, inexplicable things, beings, entities, and sometimes that can trick the mind, or some people start to interact with these energies. And here is very interesting because these energies can trick you, and play with your mind, and sometimes it's a reflection of your own shadow, your own traumas. So it's the reason it's important to get deep in what is clairvoyance and voyance, and also prophecy or adivination, because all of these things are related with psychic gifts. So uh, they exist, yes. It's in certain way it's more common, but also it's very common the people pretend your belief, or just they try to fool others, because they know how to, the curiosity we have about the invisible layers, the astral plane, the world of the spirits of the people pass away, what we call ghost, or there is like this also tendency to focus only in the negative energies, like yeah, I can see you have parasites, I can see you have this entity stick to you, draining your energy. So this is what I call the negative or the dark diagnosis. This kind of voyants, they always are talking about negativities and parasites or negative entities, and it's like they are with this like a filter, in the third eye, and sometimes they activate the third eye through trance or abuse of substance, what is also known like delirium tremens. because when the nerve system and the mind is, uh, in a position or in a moment of weakness, these energies filters, is what we call low astral. And the problem with this thing is a lot of buoyants focus in share that, and yeah, I can see in your house are ghosts, and just spread, and it's how the parasite in them, you know, talk and wants to make others to experience fear, and always they came, with a solution for the right price. So it's very interesting for me to talk about this because I experienced, in my life, in myself, this, and also, I've been in contact with other people with this kind of gift. And the difference, like I said, is the study of that, the understanding, um, the discernment, and the properly self doubt, not like insecurity, more like a healthy questioning, of their own reality. Because the thing is, a lot of people can start to, like see things and talk about that, but in the most of the cases, they are projecting their own shadows, their own desires, the inner programming in others, so just, in fantasy. So it's important to discern that. Um, so about prophecy and divination, it's important to say how, some voyants can receive the information. Um, Prophecy and divination could be divided, into paths or two branches. Sometimes there is these mediums, listen message from certain entity. Maybe it's, high frequency, maybe not. And in these cases it's very like interesting because the frequency of, the source of information we connect with the third eye or with the psychic senses. Sometimes we can, believe and really swear like that's aligned to the light and that's positive, but that's not always truth. We have to understand, when it's not our own psychosis, or a creation of our fragmented mind, and that's, dangerous. But more dangerous if you already, contact with an entity, with a being from the astral plane, because uh, usually, in the lower astral is based in hunting, so they try to catch you, and they understand the human mind, and there is a lot of these predators of the consciousness, so they can make you feel like you are special, you are the chosen one. They give you knowledge or certain influence in people, so that feed the ego, and then you start to have this exchange or conditions, with these entities. So in the case of prophecy or in the case of a divination, some people, some voyants, can see the timeline of someone, in the ocean of possibilities, and align with that, and describe. So sometimes they can have, you can like assert, like you can be doing with a good intention and tell something specific about, this is going to happen, this is how it's happening, this person is feeling this. um, some people say, oh, you are right, how you do that? Well, that's because you can connect with the timelines, and usually intuitively you can see the timeline with more vibration, with more energy. But again, there is an infinite possibilities of timelines. It's part of understanding how works the dimensions, the timeline. So in my perspective, I saw a lot of people claim themselves to be voyants or clairvoyant, but they don't really study that. They practice some rituals, ceremonies, you know uh, magic or witchcraft, but um, they don't cultivate the inner um, discernment. It's very important this, because without a strong fundaments, in moral, also in cleansing, psychic cleansing, be grounded. All of these, are part of the factors can influence in the reading, in the session of the clairvoyant. So you know it's tools. A lot of people, they want to you know take you or take advantage, also using the gift. I don't deny that gift can be part of them. The most important here is to speak to these people, these souls experience these visions, and sometimes they are afraid, or they don't know if this is imagination, this is real, what's going on. Because in my experience, since I've been child, I notice certain energies, currents, shapes, and things. You experience like a clairvoyance and clairsentience. And in that moment, like, nobody really teach me or explain me, and how to discern and understand what is really alignment with the light. What is the light of high frequency, because even the low astral plane, these low entities, these negative or dense energies, has a light. Obviously in less radiance and frequency from the higher ones. But when you don't know nothing about these things, you can be seeing something with that negative light, and you think is the right one. No, it's what we call the fake light. And this is so common, and especially like beginners, and the apprentices, the people starts with this, experience this a lot. It's part of learn discernment. It's easier when you have guidance, and also we have books. I base this material in the books of three principal authors. It's C.W. Beater, W.E. Butler, and P.V. Randolph. These magicians focus very precisely in what is clairvoyance, how they experience that. And it's important also to have objectivity, because when you start to travel in this ocean of energies, beings, and mental thoughts of it's like a forms of thought, specifically. because also the human imagination is able to create. So is when the boyans can see, like, in your aura there is this serpents or this negative energy or this parasite or this thing. It's very common, in these circles in spirituality or witchcraft and all of these things. The people express that. And yeah, I think it's important to understand, is the mind trying to give interpretation. So our brain or subconscious mind, receive all of these signals from another plane. And the difference is, the magician, the clairvoyant, train himself, herself, to keep this channel clear with devotion, but also discernment, because sometimes, there is people can get very, very um, stubborn, in their own vision. This is the reason in personal I don't follow traditions, because um, sometimes they close the eyes to other things. Because if you are buoyant or clairvoyant, the important thing to understand is there is things you cannot see. Because if you focus your attention in something and specific, you concentrate your energy, your mental energy in something, uh, obviously there is things you are not seeing. It's the reason, this gift expressed to a lot of people and along the time, because it's part to how we create or decipher this puzzle of the reality. Because for all of these authors I mentioned, and also in my personal experience, I believe voyance or clairvoyance, it's a gift with a responsibility for the human, for the humanity. And the thing is, as the avoidance becomes selfishness, and they can see how to take advantage from some situation or for some person, to hunt that vulnerability, that insecurity, or that desire to know more, or the researching. And the boyans understand how to pick that, use that to their own interest. So it's the reason, it's super, for me, I've noticed that, the importance to keep clean the mind from any emotional reaction, emotional expectation or interest, like a romantic interest, sexual desire, mental pattern or structure or belief can influence, the visions. Because um, again, the idea is to connect with the signal of the Holy Spirit, the the clarity is that, connect with the light. But we are humans, and our experience, or culture or family, all of these things create all of the um, beliefs, and conditionment, and then affect how works our subconscious mind. And when you think you are always right, or what you see it's always truth, that is a signal, of um, blinding yourself, like a self-fascination, like when the light, this fake light, blinding you, like a ghost lighting, some I hear that. But the most important thing is uh, how to ground yourself. This is the reason a clairvoyant, a specific clairvoyant, is someone with discipline, training, moral fundament and specific objective, and not all the voyants wants that, because sometimes it's more, the ego is it's my gift from, since I born, it's something I have, it's something I know how to do. So they are close to believe is something you have to train, and sometimes you can be wrong, and that's part, because be buoyant or clairvoyant, or give a prophecy or do a divination is not like you are going to be always right, and that's important to keep humble, because this kind of gifts really inflate the ego. I saw that in myself, I saw that, in my students, I saw that in friends, I saw that in people, in temazcales with chamanes. It's very, very common how, you know the idea of I'm seeing something you cannot can inflate the ego. So yeah, it's very interesting because the clairvoyance is the ability, this power to see what is hiding to the physical thing. Is, for example, I explained this with the magnets, with the magnetism, because it's invisible force. It's there, it's very sensitive. You try to put two magnets together, you feel how they, feel around, push you or attack. So in my case, I feel and I can see that, field with my eyes closed, because um, it's how the subconscious mind start to take the information and then bring like a transcription to the conscious mind. So the important is how to keep the mind like a clean filter, you know, to these kind of constructions, because remember, there is a lot, infinite things happening right now, and between, the emotion of the people around you, the energy of the objects around you, the forces, around you, like the astral forces, the planetary forces, the forces of the Mother Earth, and we can name a lot of that. This is the reason I told you, like, buoyant usually is someone like accidentally starts to sing something, and fascinated with that and focus only that. um, Clairvoyant is the study of all of these, possibilities. Usually, in personal, I don't really try to do prophecy or a divination. It's something when comes is for a specific reason, for a specific moment in their lives. It's very guided, but I don't recommend, or I don't really trust in someone comes and tell me, I cannot do a divination of your future, I can, fortune teller or something like that, because in first place, that for me means like this person doesn't understand the tissue of time, because again, like clairvoyant, it's important to study and understand the time, not only like numbers in the clock, like a force, like dimension, and what that means, and that could be very, very, very deep and sometimes abstract when, we don't only use the logic mind, also connect with the right hemisphere of the brain, um, and really understand, how the time moves through the directions. So all of this is to try to explain, um, the difference about prophecy, adivinations, voyance, and clairvoyance. Um, you can feel, the prophecy. You can, but sometimes it's the ego, feels like oh, I know what is going to happen, and then that thing happened like you saw or you believe. It's very common. Sometimes it's because you can read a pattern and that happens, and the thing is that could make you feel like oh, I have the gift for fortune teller or prophecy, or my dreams could be prophetic. And yes and not, because the tricky part is understand what is the ego and the mental, like reading of patterns and behaviors to understand, like the step one, the step two, the step three. So when there is a pattern, you can predict what is going to happen. You can do that with mathematics. That's not necessarily like an intuitive gift. It's more like a mental tool. So the difference between the prophetic gift is something just came without the ego of the mind or the will of the person. Is something came from the higher self, and the higher self only express when the vessel is ready in the proper moment, in the proper circumstances. And this is the reason that clairvoyance is very recommended, has a good diet, because it's true, the excess of red meat or junk food or the low quality or low energy in food can create this layer, because your blood and your chemistry is vibrating in this energy of blood, energy of like a carnal energy connected with desire, with anger, with frustration. Is the reason a lot of boyans can say, hey, but when I talk to my clients and say this guy is having an affair, and that was right, but it's because again they specialize themselves in focus in the negative things. Clairvoyance is not for that. Clairvoyance is for bring light to the humanity, not for feed. I keep growing this illusion of separativity, you know the darkness, the shadow, the selfishness, the fights between families. And so, yeah, I think there is a lot of things to say about this, like understanding the structure of the reality, the structure of the energy, because we know the material world has a structure. We understand the molecules, the atoms, and all of these forces and energies, and the things is measurable. But now there's a deep understanding of the structure of the energy, what in the occultism they call ether, the fifth element. So here, that could be, perfect for keep talking about this. And let me know if you like these explanations, if you have any question, because yeah, uh, there is a lot of things to get deep onto. I invite you to follow and give your like, because with that I know you want to keep learning, you want to keep exploring and discerning and understanding why you have that gift and how you can use for make the world a better place for all of us, you know and yeah, So thank you so much. And my name is Roberto Carlos. I'm a clairvoyant and I'm here for guide others.